Hey, people, is Dragon with you once again. I want to talk about something today. I think you know where I'm at on my email. Dragon Speaks for You, number 4, letter U, and at Dragon Speaks for You on YouTube for my videos. But I got something, I don't know, I was just sitting around and something came to me that happened years ago. I got into a little bit of something that wasn't no big deal. I I ended up in jail, county jail. While I was in there, I noticed this young man. There was a young man in there. He had a big old black tattoo, 666 on his forehead, the whole size of his forehead, big thick letters or numbers, 666. Okay, tats around his neck and all kinds of demonic stuff. And I observed him for a few days, and I finally got to where I went and talked to him. And I asked him, what's all that about? And he says, I'm the devil, you know. Well, I kind of snickered. I said, oh, is that right? You know. Well, that's pretty interesting. I said, can you talk to me for a while? I'd like to learn about that, you know. Just playing kind of dumb. And yeah, so he sat down, we talked for a while, and I said, well, I'm a believer in God, in Jesus Christ, Jesus the Christ. And I said, that's so it's quite interesting that we're sitting here talking. And he says, well, oh, no. He says, I can't do that. I can't do that. Because he snapped into his act. Then he went into his act. How demonic he was, because he was the devil. And I was laughing inside, I didn't want to, really disrespect the young guy. And I said, let's take a walk, So we went walking around. Not much to walk, walking around the bullpen there. I said, he got to liking me, we got to talking, he got to liking me. He kind of broke off that act about how the devil, he couldn't talk to me because he was the devil. Pretty soon, I put my arm around his neck as we were walking. And I said, isn't it interesting? And I called him by name. We'll just say Jack for now. And I said, isn't it interesting, Jack? I put my arm around his neck. I said, and we kept walking. I said that the devil and God are walking together. Did you happen to realize that? And he stopped and he looked back at me. He looked to the side and he looked at me. He said, I didn't realize that. I said, you didn't know that could happen? Is that why? You didn't realize that could happen? I said, that they do, right? They work together. How is that now? How is that? No, they don't. How is that? And I said, yeah, they do. I said, because the devil is actually one of his sons. You didn't know that, did you? Well, he is. Not like Jesus. Not like that. one of his created sons. He calls them all his sons. All the angels are called his sons. And workers of light. And he was very astonished about that. And we went on to talking, and he got to the point where he forgot all about that demonic stuff, because I was talking a lot of spiritual stuff to him, not religious stuff, deep spiritual stuff. And I was touching him, and he liked that. I don't think anybody ever reached that spot in him. But my creator has given me that power, that ability, I should say, since birth. I didn't start using it really till I got in my adolescent years. But and then it started developing, stronger and stronger. But my point is, I started a Bible study in there. And next thing you know, he sat in on that Bible study. And it was really pleasing to me. It was very pleasing to me, not in my ego, but it was pleasing to me in my spirit. My spirit jumped when he first walked in and wanted to sit down on that Bible study. And the reason he did, because I asked him, and he said, because you speak something I've never heard before. And it's about the same person that I turned against. And that hit me so hard. It put me in tears. It's hitting me right now. But for that young man to say that hurt me in my spirit. But he didn't realize what he had done. So I brought him back around. Well, the Spirit did, by the words that it put in my mouth. And that was so thrilling for me, because I had to take that pain for that young man. And I had to. I had to authentically feel that pain in that young man. Otherwise, I couldn't have touched him. I couldn't have touched that part of him internally that was so dark in his mind. It wasn't actually dark, just in his mind, by what he had not, I say, not been taught. And I had to take that pain. And I think that's the point of this video, that Jesus was an example. And it's something we all have to do. Something we all have to do. And I think a lot of us don't realize that. We react, and in a non-conformative way. We react in a very non-compassionate way. We react in a very angry way many times. or we'll react in a very indifferent way, like we don't really care when somebody's expressing their pain, okay? But Jesus was the example, and his example was for us to take the pain, okay? Is take the pain. So, for example, I know that your heart wants that. Let's say your child gets sick. I know this happened with me. My child gets sick when they were small, they were young. That just killed me. I couldn't stand seeing their face. And they'd be all, just moaning and sick, and just that pain in their face. And the first thought in me always was, I wish I could take that pain. I wish I could take it from them. I would be there instead of them. And I would. It also goes with any of your loved ones. I can't stand for any of my loved ones to be in pain. But yet, as an adult, even young, pain is necessary. Pain is a teacher. And it is an awaken. It's an awake. It's like wake up calls. Multiple awakenings at certain different times and certain things and certain situations. If you think about it, this will make a little sense to you. I can't stand for one of my loved ones to be in pain. My heart, my soul, my spirit wants to take that from them. I'll take the pain. And there's many times I've told my creator, my source, let me have that pain. Give me the pain, take it away from them and let me take it. Because I know I can. I'm strong enough to do that. I don't care what it is. Sometimes it devastates me if it's a very intense pain in one of my loved ones. I'd tell you a few stories, but I don't know if I want to go there. But, as of right now, I feel their pain. And I feel when they're going through pain. And if you ever wake up and just bothered by something and you don't know what it is, you're picking up on one of your loved ones hurting, one of your loved ones in mental torment or physical torment or spiritual torment or all the above. And it's good for you to think about that, because anytime you do and you mentally and spiritually apply it to yourself, you'd be amazed to find out how much you're really helping that loved one. I don't care if there's distance between you or not, or if they're right next to you. I'll say that again. You'd be amazed on how much you help that person without them even knowing it. And it works that way. I've put it to the test many times. And as I speak, I'm doing it. This video is for that very reason, as a matter of fact, right now. For certain loved ones of mine that are hurting, I genuinely, spiritually apply that pain to me. Because what is left in them is what is there to teach them. And I'm good with that. Because when I think of the pain, whether you believe in the story or not, of Jesus and all the pain he took as an innocent man, it makes me proud of myself. Then I can do that as an innocent man in whatever they're suffering with. To be able to do that. So in turn, I'm taking Jesus as his example. So it makes me proud of myself, spiritually, that I'm able to do that. And I believe that it is also helping that person or those people or those persons, whoever it may be. And I hope this helps some of you out there, because I know you have loved ones that are hurting, or maybe you've caused the hurt indirectly, not straightforward as you're at fault, but in some way or manner, it's due to you, even if it's not, even if it's external, something external in their life. I think it'd be good for you to do what I just said and try it. If you care about them, if you love them, take the pain. Take the pain. Whatever you can do, because maybe they deserve it. Maybe they deserve some pain. But as an empathetic person, you naturally want to take some away from them. And I believe you'll be blessed for that, because you yourself will grow in elevation for just doing that very simple thing. It will give you an elevation that you might not necessarily feel immediately or even think about. But nevertheless, it's happening. And the day will come where you'll thank yourself. You'll thank yourself for being empathetic. You might just become an empath. And that spiritual power will grow within you, because that's what you ultimately want. You want those powers to grow in you so that your life can change, your life can elevate. Because I know some of you want to change. But let me tell you something about that. You don't need to change. You may think so because of the things you're doing, and it's a word that's used. in the English language to change. But I'll tell you something about that. You don't need to change. You've already changed. You've changed from what you were meant to be in the first place. That was your change. What you need to do is remember who you truly are. So these little things like this bring you back into remembrance, and you start waking up inside to who you really are. You know, there's a song by Nickelback, and it says, "This is how you remind me of what I really am." You weren't meant to say sorry. And it goes on to explain that I brought to you something. I made a mistake because I wanted a different story. I'm paraphrasing. But I made a mistake because I brought you a heart that's broken. You know, somebody very close to me dedicated that song to me many years ago. And I'll never forget it. And to this day, I play it. And it goes both ways because that person meant it from them to me. But when I hear it, I mean it from me to them. So I'm taking the pain. And we have to learn that, people. We have to learn to do that. It's for our own good and nothing but the good. Because we will elevate. The more we do it, the more we understand, and the more we see ourselves, and the more we know ourselves. And the apostles, they asked Jesus one time, "How will we ever know you? How will we ever know?" And he told them, "Know yourself, and you'll know God." They wanted to know, how are we going to know God? Even though the deity was standing right in front of them. And that's what he told them. Know yourself, and you'll know God. And I never lose that. I never lose that. I keep that in the forefront all the time. Because, and that's why I think I do so much self-analyzing, I believe, because I want to know myself. And we have to take the pain, people, because you're going to find some ugly stuff about yourself when you do that. But you got to take that pain and you do it for yourself. And when you do, you elevate. You can, just like that, change timelines and leave this. Where you're dwelling in the mundane and in the struggle and the strife, the boredom, the unsatisfactory sense of being where you're at, if that be you, I say. You may be perfectly happy where you're at, But this is for the people that realize, not the ones that are content, because at different times you're thinking yourself, man, there's got to be something more to me. There's got to be something more to life than just this. I do this every day, you know. I get little pieces of happiness now and then, or little pieces of excitement that keep me going. But there's got to be something more. And I think some of this will help you, uh, to elevate, and to learn yourself, know yourself. But you got to know the ugliness also. You know, you've got a good idea of the beautiful part of you, man. But you don't know yourself, because your whole body, your whole self, you as a whole is beautiful. But you got to know it. And just because you know what you do and you know how you act and this and that don't mean you know yourself. Ask yourself why, how, when, where, all of that. Answer those about each little thing about yourself. Analyze yourself deep. And when you do, you're going to deliver yourself. When you take that pain, you're going to deliver yourself from the very pain you took. Just like you would for a loved one. You're helping them deliver themselves. You're helping them deliver themselves. You're helping them be delivered out of that pain. And many are stubborn. And they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They don't believe. They don't believe in you. You know? And in a sense, it's disrespectful, And that hurts. It hurts to be disrespected. I understand that. I've had a lot of that in my life. But I know who I am. So it only goes so far. It hurts. Sure it does. But I got to consider the source. You know what I mean? I got to consider the source. They don't realize what they're doing. They don't realize how bad they're hurting you or what they're hurting. Because you're a son of God. You're a daughter of God. You're a being that comes from the Almighty, and you're being attacked for no reason except an ego or whatever it may be. And I know there's many of you suffering with that, but consider the source, okay? And that's why people say, pray for them, pray for them. But what they're trying to say without explaining, and people need more of an explanation, like what I'm doing. Take the pain. Take the pain. That in itself is praying for them. That in itself is doing what that prayer might not do, you know? Who's that song by? Amy, Amy Evans, I believe. It's called A Broken Hallelujah. Man, that's a beautiful song. Look it up. Amy Evans, I believe, who sings that. That's a beautiful, beautiful song. And it's deep, It's talking about sometimes you have nothing. You got no prayer, you got nothing, but nothing but a broken hallelujah. And that's all you need, people. That's all you need. Bring your pain and hand it over. Take that pain from a loved one. Take it within yourself and then hand it over. You're doing yourself a big justice because you're elevating. You're elevating, whether you realize it or not, you're elevating and elevating until you hit a certain timeline, a certain frequency, and click, just like that, click. You're going to jump a timeline. Things are going to change for you. Things are going to change. You might all of a sudden be walking in peace. All these things coming at you, all these things being attacked. You're being attacked by this or that, or, all these, negative things that happen, in life, regular things that happen in life. They just don't affect you like they did before. You're going to notice, all of a sudden they just don't affect you. It's like, yeah, okay, you just deal with it. But they don't affect you. There's no more pain. Where'd the pain go? I sit and it blows my mind a lot because I'm at that point where I deal with stuff and it's like, it's not that I don't care. I just don't care. It's not, it's not penetrating. You understand? And it allows you to work boundaries for yourself. It allows you to be stronger and a sense of strength that you realize about yourself. And it'll kind of blow your mind a little bit. You kind of, hey, you'll feel it. You'll feel it. And along with it, it's kind of sometimes guilt tries to set in, of course, because you're going, well, I should care more. Well, it's not that you don't care. So you can't let that happen. You can't let that negative penetrate because it's trying to whisper in your ear, oh, look at you. Now you don't care. And you're so godly. You're this godly person, It's the term they use. Oh, that's not so Christian, I can't stand that. Don't try to use my God against me. That's not going to work. You sound stupid. Shut up. You know what I mean? That's been thrown at me so many times. Well, that's not very godly. That's not very Christian. You know. Somebody walked up to me and says, he was drunk. Walked up to me, come up, hitting me up for some money, right? And he come up, he goes, this was in front of the church, as a matter of fact. We had an outreach program. And he come walking up, and he goes, break bread. And you Christian, you're a Christian. You need to break bread, And he put his hand out. Break bread. Jesus says you need to break bread. Well, I looked at him, got up real close to him, and I said, well, you know what? Jesus also said not to be a drunk. And he threw himself back. And I said, now move on down the road. You come back to me when you're sober. I'll give you some money. There was another guy come up. He come up to me. He says, can I have some money? And I said, for what? What are you going to do with it? He goes, I'm going to go buy a beer. And that amazed me. I said, you know what? And I pulled out a couple of dollars I get here. Go get yourself a beer, man. I love that. He was solid. He was honest. I want a beer. I want a beer. He didn't try to give me no line, no nothing, trying to catch a bus, go home on this and that. I've heard it all, Yeah. I said, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to go down here and buy me a beer. It's beautiful here, man. Go get yourself a beer. He left me laughing, but that was beautiful, That was straight up truth. Truth will get you more than a lie will ever get you. Because a lie's got a boomerang effect. And then you got a lie on top of 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 lie. And when you get checked, you can't remember what you lied about in the first place. Then you're a fool. You look like a fool. You understand? So you're throwing on pain that you didn't, unnecessary. You understand me? Truth, you don't have to remember. You don't have to remember truth. It just is. right? So the truth of it is, people, take the pain when you see your loved one suffering or see someone suffering. It could be a perfect stranger, even if they're close to you or they're not, or you know they're states away or whatever, and you know they're hurting. You might feel them hurting, you know. We used to call it back in the 60s, Radar Love. There's a song, you know, called Radar Love. And it's just very real, you know. You'll feel that. So when you feel that, you know, don't just put it aside and say, oh, you know, just I just don't feel good today, or I'm just sad today for no reason whatsoever. You're picking up something from somebody. You understand? Learn to believe this way, and you'll start getting more information for yourself to help you elevate in your own life. Okay? Just try it. I'm just throwing something out there for you. You know, you might want to. I thought it'd be interesting to put a video out for you. You know, about it. There's much more to it, but um, it's I'm basically getting out the gist of it. You know, just learn to take the pain. Learn to take the pain. That's what we're here for. You know, we're here to take the pain. If you're strong enough, if you're strong enough in your mind, and there's not so many of us, people. You know, there's so many. Look at it in comparison to people that are hurting. Okay, look around, man. Look around. Take a walk. Get out of your comfort zone, man. Get out of your comfort zone. You know, there's so many people that are introverts, man. Introverts, scared to death of the world. You know, they order food. They order it because they don't want to go out, or you know, just order it all the time. Order all the time, just to, you know, just to. That's why Uber makes billions of dollars, man. You know, billions off a cup of coffee for 14 miles down the road for a cup of coffee. You know, they'd rather pay somebody to go take that right up the road, you know, than to leave their house. There's a lot of people like that. Oh yeah, it's convenient too, but I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that are scared to death, you know, just to go out and mingle, man, get with people. You know, I don't know, it's hard to understand, you know, but yet I understand it. But you know, it's just they don't want to give. There's no give. You know what I mean? It's all take. You know, it's no give, and that's not good. It's not good for your spirit. It's not good for your soul. It's not good for your life. Uh, you're not getting any blessings. You're not getting any positive returns into your life. You know, positive feed. You know, you may build up to a certain point, but do you do anything for people? Do you do anything for people besides hurt them? You know, and people don't need to be hurt. They don't deserve to be hurt. A lot of innocent people out there being hurt. That's what all these, you know, practitioners and everything are doing out there right now. You know, oh, by the way, I heard one is dying, and I said that. I predicted that, 2 months ago? A month ago? 2 months ago? One of them's going to die, sure enough. One of them's sicker than heck, fixing to hit the grave. It's all karma, you know. I tried to warn them, but, you know, I'm supposed to be crazy. Anyway, uh, you know, watch out for what's going on, people. Be aware, you know. But take the pain, learn to take the pain, like I said, and elevate yourself. So it's a protection. It's a protection. It's a spiritual protection that you're building. Okay. And when you're working against it, you're depleting all your security, you know, all your spiritual security. And I know it's hard for some of you to believe that, but believe in it, you know, but you're living straight carnal, just straight carnal. And you know, the only time when some tragedy hits you right close to you, right next to you, or to you, even then you'll scream for God. Somebody you didn't even believe in. You know, all of a sudden you're praying to God. There's no. So was the saying we used to say. There's no, you know, like it was came up a lot during the Vietnam War. You know, way back. You know, there's no atheist in a foxhole. You'll never find an atheist in a foxhole. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. Think about that. It's kind of funny if you think about it. Interesting, but it's true. But anyway, folks, I hope it helped you out a little bit. Uh, I wanted to do a different video this morning, but I got busy with something, and Spirit kind of threw me off on something else. But this came up, and I thought it'd be interesting for you. Might be a little tidbit in there to help you out. So I love you, and you're all workers of light, man. You're all people of the light. You're all beings of the light. You're all glorious beings, man. You know, feed that part of you. You know what I mean? It's you might be good looking and a beautiful person and all that, you know, but man, there's a lot of them that are just ugly, ugly, ugly people. You know what I mean? And like I always say, you know, don't matter how much lipstick you put on a pig, it's still a pig. Have a good day, folks. Love you.